After living a life where he was abused and forced to watch his loved one's final breath, Yuji tries to look for meaning in his life, just to find out that everything was caused by a person from his past. After losing his guardian Asako, Yuji spent his nights alone in their house. He wondered where people go when they die and if he would be able to see her again once he died. But then, he remembered her words, that he wasn't allowed to die unless he saved 5 people. Yuji moved to JB's place to prevent him from thinking of pointless things. One night, he remembered Asako's advice to discover and understand the things that interested him during a trip, as it would expand his horizons. So he went on a trip as his way to cope with her death. Throughout the journey, he realized that he needed to live his youthful days. So when he got home and visited Asako's grave, he told her he wanted to try to go to an ordinary school. Yuji's wish to enroll in an ordinary school is granted by Chizuru, the school principal and teacher. She welcomes him to Mahama Academy. There are only 6 students, including him. There he meets Sachai, a freshman and class monitor who usually dresses as a maid and follows orders obediently, hoping to be a good girl. He also meets Amayan, a third-year student, playing with Makina, a freshman with an innocent look. While walking in the hallway, he hears a voice from the other side of the building. When he enters the room, he sees a blonde girl that goes hysterical after seeing him. He learns that she's Mikairu, a second-year student pretending to be a tsundere. By the end of the day, he meets the final girl, Yumiko, sitting by the classroom window. But she doesn't give him a warm welcome, and even tries to attack him with a cutter. Weeks quickly pass and Yuji ends up becoming close to everyone, as he was forced to deal with each of the girls' different childhood trauma, to the point that he takes a leave from school to relax from it all and goes back to visit his hometown. Suddenly, a memory from his childhood flashes in his mind where he sees a young Sachai calling him Yuuko. She's his childhood friend whom Kazuki, his late sister, prohibited him from playing with. He returns to the dormitory. He finds out that Sachai will set off a bomb to force the test to be cancelled. He calls the girls to the classroom where she is in. When the timer is up, he enters the room. At the same time, Sachai tries to cover the explosives with her body to minimize the explosion's impact to save the others. But the bomb doesn't go off. When they're alone, he reveals that he programmed the bomb to stop automatically once the timer is up. He tells her it's been a long time, revealing that he remembers their childhood spent together. He talked to her uncle when he went to his hometown, and learned that her parents had an accident. Sachai explains that after Yuji stopped coming to the park, she felt alone, as her parents had no time for her because of work. On her 10th birthday, she ran away from home because she felt neglected. Her parents followed her, but sadly, they were hit by a vehicle right in front of her eyes. She thinks it all happened because she was stubborn, so she's trying her best to be a good girl now to atone for it. Yuji says that he also remembers their memories of the past. Sachai's stubbornness was the one that saved him from the depression he felt caused by his family. So he comforts her, saying that being stubborn is not always bad. He pats her head and thanks her for working so hard all along. He takes Sachai to her family's old factory business. When they enter, she sees the present her parents had prepared for her on her 10th birthday. He watches as she reads the heartwarming letter her parents left her, revealing how much they had loved her, and how they regretted not spending more time with her. Yuji then decides to confess his feelings to Amayan and becomes her boyfriend. However, he asks why she's so persistent about being together with him. Tears fall from her eyes as she struggles to tell the truth. She mentions some of his sister's information out of the blue. He is surprised that she knows Kazuki. She reveals that she is the only survivor of the incident that took his loving sister to the afterlife. She gives him the diary she wrote during the incident, and he begins to read it. 6 years ago, Kazuki's club was returning to school from camp when they met an accident that led to their bus falling off a cliff. During their first night, Kazuki and Amayan became best friends. After more than a week of survival, some students passed away, and the rest got weaker. Their teacher went off alone, telling them he would bring back the rescue. Their teacher returned, but Kazuki and Amayan discovered that he and the club's captain secretly butchered and fed the corpses of the deceased members to everyone. Hence, the two of them decided to run away. But the others found out that the two friends knew about the horrible thing they had done. And so, delusional from starvation and disease, the empty shells of the remaining club members chased after them. Amayan got too scared and was about to give up, but Kazuki promised to protect her. She let her escape by giving her a map to get out of the mountain and then sacrificing herself as bait. Amayan managed to escape the forest and survive by herself. However, her life after that was haunted by nightmares, and she believed that she deserved to be punished for surviving. That's why when Yuji came, she believed that he would be her punishment for leaving her best friend behind to die. She apologizes, thinking that she took away Kazuki's life, and asks him to end her life as her punishment. But Yuji dismisses it. Instead, he orders her to stay by his side. She must live for him for the rest of her life, and he will not forgive her if she leaves. Although he is unsure if Kazuki is still alive, he knows that his sister would not choose to die so easily. A few days later, Yuji receives a phone call from Division 1 informing him that he has a new sniping mission, and his target is a terrorist named Ethan Glow. He gets into a sniping position and spots the target, but he immediately recognizes the man and goes into a panic shock. It's Heath Oslo, the one who had trained him to be an assassin as a child. Oslo turns in his direction and mouths the words, "I've returned." After the failed mission, the CIRS retrieves Yuji and contains him. The news start to report that the terrorist organization led by Oslo attacked the embassy, and Yuji is suspected of participating in the attack based on proof from a surveillance camera. The CIRS forces Yuji to enter a room where he sees a hologram of Kazuki talking to him. He finds it hard to believe as his sister is already dead. However, she reveals that her brain tissue was used in developing a computer system called the Thanatos system. To test if she's the real Kazuki, Yuji asks her a question about herself which she answers correctly. When he's sure she is his sister, he asks her why she didn't see him sooner, but she apologizes that she wasn't able to because of her condition. He gets confused but tells her he's willing to do anything she asks for without question. She informs him about Oslo smuggling in a nuclear bomb. She tells him that Oslo is after her, because as the computer Thanatos, she has the ability to monitor transmissions worldwide and can infiltrate every system. Yuji considers it difficult to handle the situation by himself, but she informs him that they can't ask for the government's help as it is already in negotiations with Oslo. Oslo will agree to accept only 20% of the computer system in exchange for getting Yuji. Yuji is revealed to be an important tool for Oslo since he's the only successful sample produced by the Dupont project, an experiment to create super soldiers. He asks Kazuki what he should do, and she explains Oslo is related to everything that happened to Yuji. Specifically, he's the one responsible for the bus accident, Sachai's parents' deaths, and everything related to the other girl's past traumas. She then orders him to assassinate Oslo. Kazuki tries to apologize to her brother, but he stops her midway. He tells her he doesn't want to hear apologies anymore and that he has a bigger problem to settle, Oslo. Yuji is then restrained unconscious in the Ikageya holding facility by the CIRS. The guard informs him that he will be transferred to Akasaka to be put on trial for the terrorist attack. But on the way, the vehicle that he's in gets ambushed by Oslo's men. They kidnap him and attach a bomb to his wrist that will detonate once his pulse weakens. Only Oslo holds the key that can open its lock. Suddenly, someone shoots their vehicle along with the other backup cars. As he gets dragged out by Oslo's men, smoke screens are thrown all over the place. Yuji coughs while he's on the ground. He looks up and sees Sachai. She came to save him. He starts to feel relieved because he was hoping someone would rescue him. While she moves to cut his ties, he warns her not to break the bracelet as it is a bomb. The two of them get picked up by Amayan and Mikairu. While in the truck, the enemies continue to pursue them. The vehicle swerves, and Yuji struggles to hold Mikairu's hand as she's about to fall outside. While the helicopter unleashes explosives at their car, the three girls cover him while he loses consciousness. Yuji wakes up and finds Justin from his army days in the room. Not long after, a girl enters the room and introduces herself as Zoe Graham, and she's part of the US Central Intelligence Agency. Zoe asks him if her name rings a bell, but Yuji can't remember. It turns out she's the daughter of Paul Graham, one of the people he assassinated when he worked for Oslo. She points the gun at him, but she lets him off after he says he will settle things with Oslo. Yuji finally sees Kazuki. He hugs his sister and cries, realizing his older sister is still alive. She makes him choose whether he will come with her or settle things with Oslo, but he decides to go after Oslo. Yuji instructs everyone to escape on the ship as he'll be going after Oslo. He thanks everyone for saving him and promises them he will not die. Kazuki informs him about Oslo's location, so he gets prepared for his confrontation against Oslo. JB tries to stop him, telling him that he's not strong enough to beat Oslo. Yuji reminds her that he's Asako's apprentice, but she reveals that even Asako couldn't beat Oslo as they fought once, and the fight ended in the injury that caused her death. However, Yuji gets more persistent in going. Knowing that Oslo had killed the most important woman in his life, Yuji infiltrates Oslo's ship and assassinates Oslo's men one by one. He swiftly moves forward through the fire and stabs them mercilessly. He uses one of Oslo's men as a decoy and pretends to be a corpse. When Travis, one of the men, takes the bait, he gets up and stabs him with his knife. Not long after, he hears Oslo's voice from the intercom. He picks it up and tells him he's coming for him. Outside, Yuji faces Dupont, a human replicated from his genes. Dupont challenges him to determine once and for all who is the stronger one. He slides a pack of strength boosters toward him, wanting him to fight seriously. But Yuji tells him that he doesn't need the boosters and slides them back. Angered at being taken lightly, Dupont charges forward and swings his knife. Yuji dodges the first attacks but gets caught when Dupont targets his joints. While on the floor, Dupont injects the drugs into Yuji's neck, forcing his body to get enhanced strength. Yuji gets up and attacks him, but Dupont quickly brings out his gun and begins shooting him. Yuji gets his own gun, throws it to Dupont's face, and follows it with a punch. As Dupont is shooting at him, he flips his weapon and shoots it in his direction. Badly hit, Dupont falls to the ground. Yuji hesitates at dealing the final blow, and Dupont takes the chance to inject another booster on himself and dodges Yuji's attack. He kicks him into the air and unleashes relentless punches on him. It is evident that he is much more powerful. Yuji's energy is wearing out, unable to defeat his opponent, so he has no choice but to inject another booster dose. With a new surge of strength, he quickly attacks Dupont while targeting his wound. He picks up his knife and brawls with him. He gets multiple injuries from Dupont's fast movements, but after remembering a memory of Asako urging him to fight, he gets up and continues to fight for his life. As Dupont advances on him, Yuji catches him and stabs his torso, ending the battle with victory. Yuji enters Oslo's room. As Oslo tries to catch up on old times, Yuji ignores him and swings his knife forward, but Oslo dodges it. He informs Yuji that the bomb on his wrist will detonate in 5 minutes. If he's able to take the key from him, he can do anything he wishes with it. Oslo draws Asako's sword and uses it to attack Yuji. He kicks him forward, and Yuji takes a few more slashes from him. Oslo tries to persuade him to return to him, but Yuji's strength is faltering, and he swings his knife in the air mindlessly. Oslo regrets not being able to take Yuji back alive, and runs the sword through his stomach. Yuji vomits blood, but he hasn't given up. He moves forward through the blade until he's closer to Oslo. He tells him he doesn't need a gun or a blade to kill someone. He picks up a ballpoint pen and stabs Oslo in the neck. As Oslo starts to convulse from the fatal stab, Yuji tells him that he's the one who taught him how to do that and that he will be joining him shortly in the afterlife. Yuji uses Asako's sword as his walking aid while finding his way out, but his vision gets blurry and he's weak from his wounds. Suddenly, an image of Asako flashes in his mind telling him to live. He remembers the promise he made to the others to not die, and musters all his remaining strength to reach outside, telling himself he must get home alive. But suddenly, the ship explodes. 2 years later, we find out Yuji is still miraculously alive, and he's peacefully living on a private island with everyone dear to him. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.